Welcome to Real Talk Christian Podcast, where we drink coffee and have real conversations on faith, culture, and society. This is one of your hosts, Mark Hyde, and we are so glad that you have joined us for another edition of RTC on the Road. Season 7, we both kind of went back to our roots a little bit in terms of just having some real conversations, but Fuller and I also were on the road a lot this summer. So far, we have gone to 2 different weddings, and we also did Revive Fest, which, if you remember last week's episode, we aired the actual workshop that we taught there at Revive Fest, and we have 2 more episodes coming from the 2 nights that we had to drive home, honestly, at like midnight, where you will hear us get pulled over live on that episode, so that was a lot of fun. But this episode is when we were coming back from the Smith's wedding, and we asked a lot of questions of you guys, primarily in the RTC online Facebook community, of what are some different questions that you guys have around the faith. And well, honestly, we just flat out ran out of questions. And so for this episode, we were trying to figure out what are some of the big questions that people have regarding the faith and more of the practical side of the faith. So you'll see here in just a little bit where Fuller got some of these questions. And just like how we used to before the podcast even came out 6 years ago, Fuller and I would just have a random conversation, a random couple of questions that we would just walk into a coffee shop, talk about it, give a big old bear hug at the end, and then go on our way. And we wanted to introduce you guys to that pure, raw, authentic, real talk, real conversations that Fuller and I have had for many, many years, and wanted to bring you guys along on the journey with us for that. If you are new to the podcast, I just want to say welcome. We are so glad you are here. And if you have listened for many, many, many years, we are so thankful and glad you are here as well. Just as always, make sure you leave a rating and review anywhere where you listen to your podcast. And if you have not yet, make sure you head over to the online Facebook community, where we are continuing to have conversations with over 2,000 other Christians who are in some place in their spiritual faith journey. So make sure you check that out, leave that rating and review, and without further ado, I'll turn it over to the car for this week's conversation.
What's going on, RTC?
Bro, we wedding hard today.
We did. We've been at Evan and Ryan Smith's wedding and wedding reception since, I don't know, what we got here? Probably like 12:45.
We got here but early
and
on
then
accident.
so I think it's left.
Yep, take a left.
We ended up running to go get some coffee from a coffee shop called Aroma.
Which, I mean, come on, that is the definition of RTC.
Absolutely.
We're on the road, we're early, let's get coffee, because that's what we
came
do.
back, they had a beautiful ceremony.
I still have some.
Look at you. Oh, I bet it's warm.
Nope, not too bad, because ice.
All right. But it was a beautiful outdoor wedding and
gorgeous.
A
My goodness.
wonderful reception.
Dude, I want to know if Ryan or if Evan picked the spot, because it was at the 4-H fairgrounds.
Yeah, there's like a little chapel and then like
Gorgeous
a field.
chapel,
Yeah,
gosh.
And then the field was like right outside or whatever, the lawn or whatever it is,
Yep.
right next to the 4-H fairgrounds.
Out on the quad.
On the quad. Anyways, it was a great wedding. So, but we're on our way back home now.
So Beth will be home in about an hour.
Sure. Well, about
5 weeks ago.
Hour and 15 minutes. Hour and 13 minutes.
Hour and 13 minutes. Not too bad.
Not too bad. So, anyways, Evan and Ryan, congratulations. I know this episode is dropping a lot later. You guys probably have already been married for a few months now, but we love you guys and are praying for the best for you guys in your new embarkment of marriage.
The cool thing that we've been able to do on the podcast, bro, is we've seen people come to the faith.
Yep.
We've seen tons of people get baptized and then start new ministries in their church or plug into ministries. And we've seen people get married, like people like celebrate, like, hey, I just got married, but
we haven't been to a wedding.
Or
of somebody
what
that
is that a cow? Yo, there's a loose cow.
Dude, a cow got out. Wow, this is the definition of
How did that
Indiana.
cow get out?
Wow.
Dude, there's like a whole pasture, and that cow is just chilling on the side of the road.
Oh, only on RTC.
Wow, only on RTC in the middle of central Indiana do you see a cow just chilling on the side of the road.
But yeah,
how often? But we talked about this in previous episodes where marriage is a divine I would call it divine grace.
Sure.
But, it's something, it's a gift that God gave humanity.
Yeah.
And so to see two people actually...
baby deer.
Baby deer, my goodness. So to see two people actually pledge their lives together and have it all centered on Jesus. I mean, Evan, bro.
Oh, bro, that was a great speech.
Yeah, it wasn't even a speech. It was just
him sharing his heart.
I love my now wife.
Yep.
And I love Jesus, and I want you guys to come to heaven with me.
Yeah, we're going to heven. We want you to be there with us. I'm like, yep, that's it.
We'll be there with you, homie.
Amen.
Absolutely. Which you guys are actually, after you guys get married, you guys are moving closer to our direction.
Yeah, I think we're only going to be like 45 minutes, an hour, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they're only 45 minutes out of us, so not too shabby.
Bad.
But bro, so for this episode,
Yeah.
you were trying to think of some fun content ideas
Yeah.
that would just get us chatting,
Sure.
get us on some basic conversation.
Absolutely.
And we contacted your best friend,
No.
ChatGPT.
No, not my best friend, but I was like, hey, I wonder, we had just had recently an episode on the AI, right? And I'm like, let's see what AI comes with. I'm like, Christian conversations for a vlog.
So you didn't even give it a big brief. You just gave it a very simple...
What's Christian conversations for a vlog? And it gave me a list, right? And I was like, all right, well, we'll read through some of these questions on the list and talk about it. It's the best, right? Because we're not researching and studying up on the content in which we're writing. It's just hey, let's do it and go, right? So
off the cuff.
What better way than ChatGPT? Anyways, so I'm going to start with number one, and we'll just work our way down the list until.
Oh, we're going to start with number one?
Well, yeah, why not? I'm just going to go number one and work my way down.
Oh, boy.
All right, so some of them might be long answers, some might be short answers. We might skip some. I don't know.
That sounds good to me.
All right, so here we go. What does trusting God actually look like in an everyday life? So I'm guessing what it's saying is like, how does serving God, relying on God, look? What does it look like? Guesses.
My first thought goes to the old hymn, where it's trust and obey.
Oh
no. no, but trust and obey, because the song goes, trust and obey, because there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey.
Okay.
And then that also leans back into my favorite Bonhoeffer quote that I seem to bring up every episode, where it's only the believers obey and only the obedient believe. And so how do you trust God in your everyday life? Well, you freaking live like it.
Yep.
Like, I mean,
but what does that look like? Like, how do you what's that look like in everyday life?
Well, I mean, in the one side, there's the obvious ones where it's like you cast your cares on him, and when you get worried, when you get anxious, you go to him in prayer, and then you trust in him for... my brain just absolutely just went a whole different direction with that. Because like as Western Americans, we know what it's like to always be comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's so many people in Christianity throughout a lot of history where you're on the outskirts of society, or you're in third world countries, or you literally are praying to God for your daily bread.
Yeah.
And whereas us in America, a lot of our worries and a lot of our
are so
concerns,
minute.
They're just first world problems.
Yeah.
But I think the rubber meets the road, and it gets a lot more complicated when all of a sudden it's like, how do you trust in God when your spouse dies? Or how do you trust in God when your best friend betrays you? Or how do you trust in God when something at work happens, or
you lose your job, or there's a death to someone you're close with, or
exactly, right? Or it's like, how do you trust in God when certain situations come up that are so, like, you have no control over? Right. Someone else has, like you said, like with your job, like when your boss has that final decision on what does or doesn't happen, and your hands are literally in someone else, or your life is in someone else's decisions.
Right.
Like that's when it gets really hard. But every time I see in Scripture, it's like, okay, so what does it mean to actually trust God? I think of the one where rejoice always, pray without ceasing, and in all things give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus our Lord, which is 1 Thessalonians 3.
Yep, which is similar to Philippians chapter 4, where it talks about... now I'm going to brain flub on it.
Are you talking about Philippians 4:13, where I can do all things through Christ?
No.
Or in health?
No. I'm going to just pull it up. Hang on.
Beautiful background.
Bear with me. What the And so you talked about it. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Let your moderation be known unto the man. Yada yada yada. And then it talks about Finally, brother, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever. So this is
think on these things.
Yes, think on those things which have been learned and received and heard and seen me and do, and the God of peace shall be with you. And that's, to me, meditating upon those things, and that is where I would say that's part of having that trusting moment with God, and thinking and dwelling, very similar to what you were talking about in trusting and obeying, is to dwell on these things as much as possible, because these are the things that God has given to us.
Yeah, there's the, what was that quote from, I think, George Mueller, where it's, work or do as if everything depends on you, but pray as if everything depends on God.
Right, absolutely.
And so when it comes to trusting God, we still have to live our everyday lives. And sometimes I feel like we overcomplicate it, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you're trying to make very simple decisions, and yes, you want to honor God in all your decisions, but I feel like, and maybe,
but do we actually even consider God in all of our decisions? And that's one of those things that's a whole nother can of worms you get open up.
Yeah, because okay, are we going to go to the zoo today or not? Okay, well, is that really a decision you get to pray to God about, or is it the fact of, while you are doing this, make sure your life and your talk and your actions reflect God.
Right.
So I think it's more the fact of, if you really trust somebody, you're going to follow. You're going to act. You're going to do.
Sure.
So if you actually trust a chair that's going to hold you up, you're actually going to sit. If you actually are going to trust that a car is going to take you from point A to point B, you actually have to turn on the car and go.
Sure.
And so what does it look like to trust God in the everyday? I think in one sense it really is to just keep marching forward, keep moving forward. Don't just sit and I'm just going to wait on God to tell me what's going on. Right. It's like, no, get off your butt and go do something.
Absolutely. Well, it's walking through those open doors, right? Mm-hmm. And trusting that, hey, these doors that are open, God is opening them and directing my steps, and that's what I'm trusting in. And even in my little decisions of, shall I go to the zoo today? And I go, yeah, I'm going to go to the zoo. Where I'm going to take the kids to the zoo? To me, I would say, well, all right, God's ordaining that we're going to the zoo today. In the grand scheme of looking down on things, for whatever that purpose may be. Maybe it's just spending quality family time together, or maybe God's going to put somebody in your path along that way at the zoo. I've had that last time we went to the zoo for the Illuminate the Zoo, right?
Oh, did you guys get to go to that?
So we went to it.
Did you go to the nighttime one or during the day?
We went during the nighttime, so at 8 o'clock at night we showed up.
We only saw it in the day, so we didn't see it all light up.
Packed. Like, there was no parking whatsoever. But we went there, and it's like, all right, this is cool, and we're enjoying it, and the kids are really enjoying it. And so we start feeding the fish. And one of my friends who I hadn't seen face-to-face in years, I used to go to church with, he walks up behind me. He's like, hey, young man, how's it going? And I turn around. It's my friend Ben. I'm like, Ben.
Oh, dude.
What's going on? And so there was just that, like, what's the likelihood? It was God ordained for us to be there on that night to see each other, to walk those steps, to stop. And, low storage.
Yeah, I know. My phone is on low storage.
Wow.
We might need to have you download the app and flip phones.
So, yeah, we might have to do that. But it's just one of those God-ordained things during that moment that we still had that time together as a family, but God ordained me to see one of my friends that I hadn't seen in a long time as well. So, you know what I mean? So I think in every day, it's trusting God, like you were saying, every step you're taking, but it's stepping through those doors, knowing that if the door is open and I'm stepping through it, that God is allowing it. And if I'm walking my life and using my life to serve Him, then in essence, it is trusting and obeying God, as long as I'm not, with the mindset of hey, I'm going to serve God in all my ways. And that may look like, what does that look like going to the zoo? Well, it shows that I'm being a family man. I'm taking care of my family. I'm also allowing my family to have good opportunities, good times. We're going to live as righteously as we can, even in our anger moments, try to be as righteous with our anger as we can. So, not that we're perfect at that, but you know what I mean. So, anything else?
Nope. What's the next one we got?
All right. So the next one we got.
I'm nervous about my phone saying low storage.
We'll go to it, and we just might have to do some more editing.
See what happens.
All right. How do you keep your faith when life feels like it's falling apart?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, man. You know better than me on this one. So how do you do it, Mark? How'd you do it? How'd you keep your faith?
Honestly,
when life feels like it's falling apart.
That's all I had. Like, when it came to my life falling apart back in 2019, in some regards, like, okay, sometimes when bad things happen, who gets blamed? God gets blamed.
Right.
But a lot of times we can look at our circumstances and situations, and like when my life absolutely exploded, it started because of not even my own choice. Like, I just woke up one day and that was it. And so in one regard, I didn't lose my faith in God, because like I could sit there and say, God, I can't believe you allowed this to do it. But it's like, but when you understand proper theology and you understand how God works, and then also the sovereignty of God versus the free will of man, you can look at it and go, yes, God is still good. Yes, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. But in that situation, I could pin the implosion on someone else's choice. And so when my life went to complete crap, in one sense, so to speak, I wasn't sitting there asking God, why would you allow this to happen? Why did this happen? I'd be like, I know who did this, and I know why this happened. I don't know what's going on or what's actually happening, but that's not how God works. And I mean, I've also gone through like the death of a parent. I watched my mom walk through the death of a spouse. And when you understand that we live in a broken, fallen world, and that we're never promised that this life is going to be easy, I think it's actually, it makes sense to follow God in those things, where even though it's hard, it doesn't make sense. Yes, God could fix everything. He will one day. He hasn't yet. Why not? I don't know. And so there's some things where when your life is falling apart all around you, you first have to ask the question, okay, is this a choice I made, or is this a choice someone else made? Not to blame God in that. But even if it's completely unexplainable, I don't want to say it's just as simple as just trust God, bro, but in one sense it is. Like the pain and the issues that we are feeling does not change the fact that Jesus rose again from the dead. Well, yeah. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think in a practical standpoint, I mean, I remember when you were going through what you were going through, right? The divorce and the affair and everything like that is surrounding yourself with people that help hold you up and encourage you in your faith during those times, and not just trying to walk that alone. I think during hard times, that's what the body, the community, the tribe is supposed to be there for each other, to laugh together, to cry together, to hold each other, to love each other through good times and bad times. And, from a practical standpoint, I think that's why the community is so important, why we shouldn't forsake the assembly of the brethren, just solely for that reason of living life together with that community. You have people to help encourage you during those times where you might be having a faith crisis. And then likewise, you might be the person doing the encouragement during the faith crisis of somebody else. So that's where we really lean on each other.
And that's one reason why I love the picture of the three chords. That's what Evan and Ryan had at their wedding. Was the passage of Ecclesiastes 4, where, what's the actual passage? I always know is 3 quarters are not easily broken. That's the part I always go to.
Me
where
too.
It's like one can fall down. Who is a Cybertruck? Where it's like, with one person he can fall, 2 people you can pick each other back up. And honestly, it even mentioned in that passage the fact of you actually enjoy life a little bit more when there's 2 people, but a cord of 3 is not easily broken or easily destroyed. And that's where the Christian community aspect really comes in. And, us in our Western world, we don't really understand suffering and pain and heartache like a lot of other cultures have because of modern medicine and a lot of other different things.
Absolutely.
That's not to say that we don't have our own struggles, because we definitely do.
Yeah, we have struggles of excess, of pushing God out because of excess or because of things we want to do. Things that third world countries don't really have to worry about, so not that.
And I think what gets hard though is when it's you and you're the one going through the crap.
Absolutely.
And you're like, why can't you fix this? Why can't you change my situation? Why can't you deal with all these different things? Knowing that he can, but we just don't know the why. And I think that's where it gets.
I was going to say, you think that's where the struggle's at?
That's where it gets
not understanding the why.
Because if we were told this is why, now of course it still stinks to be told like so. If I asked God when I was 10, so why'd you have to take my dad from me? Well, that way you could then, your mom could get remarried. You could be moved out to South Bend. Because you moved to South Bend, you went to this little school called Northland. Because you went to Northland, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. See, so sit down and shut up, Mark. Like, that would be nice. to know what's going down. But it's really hard when there's so many different things that are happening that are outside of our control and we don't know why. And there are sometimes we can step up and do things, and then there's sometimes where we can't do anything.
Right.
And I think that's where it's hard. And for people, that's a McDonald's truck. Oh, they just have a sign on their truck. Never mind. I'm like,
we are so distracted. Two ADH guys in a car is a bad thing. This is why we podcast in a basement.
With notes, with show notes.
Yeah, keep us from being distracted.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, everything you said I agree with. You know, the wanting to know the why is really the part that comes into why people might be struggling during those hard times. Mm-hmm. But trusting in God and having that faith, right, during those times of that God works out everything for the good for those who love Him. That's where it's imperative to remember those promises. Because had your dad not died, and had your mom not got remarried, and had you not moved to South Bend area, you would have never met me. Had you never met me, you would have never met Beth.
Right.
And you see, so it's just like me. Like, I go back and go, had I never done drugs, I would have never gotten in a fight with the church, which would have caused me to be so upset with the church and my family. I would have never moved to Florida. Had I never moved to Florida, I would have never came back with the different mindset that I was in, being on the drugs. And I would have never led me to seeking out to go online, which I would have never met Janelle, which means I wouldn't have my family.
Which now all of a sudden it's like...
Right. So looking at how God has blessed me now, I wouldn't have understood that back then had there not been some trust and everything. And I mean, I wasn't trusting God at that point anyways, but it just shows you how God orchestrates everything that we have now in life. The good things we have in life now are all really orchestrated by God. And had we made a different choice back years ago, we wouldn't be in this situation we are today, having the spouses we have, having the families we have. So sometimes during those hard times, you just have to trust God that God knows what's best for us, and God has a plan, right? Mm-hmm. And God's plan might be martyrdom, right? We've seen that with the apostles, a lot of people in the early church, people in third world countries right now that are being murdered for the name of Christ, right? That might be the plan God has for you, and you just have to trust Him in those moments, that He's going to use it for His glory and for His good.
Yep.
So
I like it.
All right, let's see here. I got the phone. Phone keeps shutting off, so it keeps going into.
I only got to read like 4 of them while we were waiting for the wedding to get started.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Number 3. Have you ever felt like God was silent, and what did you do? You ever felt like God was silent? I could say when I was on the road to destruction, as I'll call it for myself, self-destruction. That was one of the things that was, I really felt God had gone silent on me. And back then I based my faith upon whether I felt God or I didn't feel God, which is a terrible idea to do, because there might be times where, and seasons where you don't feel as close to God, but it's like a marriage, right? There's times that I'm not head over heels romantically, oh my goodness, I can't wait to see Janelle. There's times where we're arguing and it's like, yeah, I mean, we're arguing, so it's not all lovey-dovey, right?
Right, yep.
But it doesn't mean I don't love my wife, or that I'm not remaining faithful to my wife, or that my wife loves me and faithful to me. And it's the same with our relationship with God. We may not always feel overjoyed and up on that mountaintop of glory, of faith, and feeling Him and being all excited and motivated to serve and just know that, hey, everything is working great. We might be on a low, but it doesn't mean that God is any less faithful to us, and we shouldn't be any less faithful to God during those moments, which is why you should never base your faith upon a feeling. Mm-hmm. But during that time when I was younger, I did base it upon a feeling. But what it comes back down to now, thinking back on it, hindsight's always 20/20, was that it was because the road of sin that I was going down, that God wasn't necessarily silent. I just stopped listening. I no longer sought Him or sought His direction or sought what was best for my life that He wanted for me. I wanted my own way. I wanted certain things. I wanted to have good feelings. And so was it that God actually went silent, or was it that I stopped listening? And that would be the more question I would say.
Active listening?
Yeah. Right, absolutely, yeah. Because for me, it seems like the more I'm in the Word, the more I'm in community, the more I'm in prayer, the more I can appreciate and see the little things of God, right? The little blessings of God. But the more I'm self-centered, the more I'm not in my word or in prayer or in community or not seeking his face, the less I see of those little moments of God. And I just miss it, and I just start getting miserable. And I think, and again, that's just for me. It might be that way for other people too, but I think it's important to, in those moments where it feels like God is getting quiet, just do a quick self-evaluation and say, all right, am I seeking God? Is there a reason for this? And if God, it may not be, you might be still seeking God and he's still gone quiet, but it doesn't mean that he's actually gone quiet or left you or gone away, because he says he'll never leave us nor forsake us. It's just we're not hearing him at that moment. So I guess that's my take on it.
Yeah. This is one I've thought about quite a bit, where I'm very much a tangible, physical person.
Mm-hmm.
I would be Thomas, bro. I'd be doubting Thomas in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I mean, like, not in a good way, but I think I would be like doubting Thomas.
Yeah, I'm more of a Peter, like slice the guy's ear off.
Yeah, I'd be more like Thomas. Like, nah, yeah, I got to see, guys. Like,
yeah, right.
I believe you say you saw something, but
yeah.
until I see it, I can't do anything with it.
Right.
And so, with that being said, it's very hard for me where it's like even in a service where, like, you know, there's some traditions that do more tangible acts of worship in terms of body positions during prayer, candles and scents and other things that I actually really like experiencing those, because it connects my senses to my actions, mentally, of what I'm doing. And so, like, I always did worship experiences for the teenagers, which, fun fact, if any of my teachers are listening, that's why I did it, was because that was a way that I could actually not just have my brain out be out there floating, but actually gives me something tangible. But that is the idea of not just God going silent. That's not so much more what I think through, but it's more just the fact of I don't want to just say, like, oh, I don't even know if God's even there. But some days it feels like that. And that's what it means when God goes silent. Does God go silent on all of us at some point? And, you know, when we read in Romans that the heavens declare the glory of God, when we see that when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of you. When you read the promises of Jesus of, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. And you see God saying that to Joshua. You even read in Hebrews of, you know, for those that are his, he'll never leave them alone. And even in Isaiah, where it's like, even in the fire, you will be there. David, even though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for you are with me. Some days I really sit there and think, so are you really with me in this or not? And a lot of times I get to those thoughts when I'm either not in the right mental headspace, of more so just life is hard and it's exhausting, and do I really want to do this? And, like, not like suicidal, do I really want to do this? But more of like life is hard. Like, life with 8 kids is hard.
Absolutely.
Running a business is hard.
Absolutely. Blended families are hard.
Blended family is hard. And just because something is hard doesn't make it wrong, doesn't make it bad. It's
absolutely.
just hard. But when the idea of what do you do when God goes silent, in one sense, like, and this is where my theology, where the last question comes in. Because, like, theologically, I know, well, God never goes silent, because in the days of old, he spoke through the prophets, the law and the prophets.
And even in creation, cry out. And
now he speaks through his son, Jesus. And where do we find those? Well, we find that in the gospel, the New Testament writing, and then all throughout church history. So if I really think, oh, God is just silent, he's not speaking anymore, well, I just need to sit down and actually be like, all right, well, let's read what God says. Let's read what Jesus says. Let's
remember his promises.
Exactly. And so, and know that one day Jesus will actually return. And so,
Jesus is a coming soon.
I don't know how your introvert's still going. My extrovert is tapped out.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I know I'm not really answering. I'm kind of just spinning the wheels on it. But what do I do when God goes silent? Factually, the best way to do the best thing to do is look back at all the promises of God and see where he showed up in your life throughout all the time.
Absolutely.
Down to like that journey both you and I just went on mentally with, if this didn't happen, all these other things wouldn't happen. We can see God working through those situations. Our first conversation we ever had on the podcast. Does my past affect my future? And then you go even farther back throughout all the church history, and then all throughout Israelites history. Like, you always see the Israelites setting up some sort of physical remembrance, whether it's an altar or a well or a tower or something, so that way when you and your kids see this, you can tell the story of God and to see what he did here today.
Right, and that's the whole reason, like Passover, right? Passover is all surrounding what God did for the Israelites, right? From the what he did in Egypt to everything. Like that's the whole Passover meal that the Jews celebrate is all looking back for what God has done. And they're looking forward to the Messiah coming. Now, the Christian Seder is a little different, but it's the same concept. We look back at what God did for the Israelites, and we look back what God did on the cross, and we look forward to our Savior coming for a second time in the very end.
Yep.
So, all right. Question 4 out of 15.
Burning through these.
Here's a good one. Take your time.
Oh, brother.
When have you had to forgive someone who didn't deserve it?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
If you listen to this podcast for any length of time, you already know where my brain is going.
Yeah.
I've done really well with forgiving one person, not so great with another.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. Other than that, though, like with my ex, I haven't. I at least I don't feel like my family and people have ever been personally attacked to the point where I feel like I couldn't forgive. I will say the one area of sin that I deal with is, oh, dude, that semi flipped over.
That's like totally upside down.
That's total. Wow.
It's like supposed to be like a billboard, but it's upside down.
It's been a billboard for years. Wow.
We keep talking about stuff people can't see what the heck
Right. Well, there's a semi that's flipped up upside down. It's just a trailer, not the front part.
Right.
Gosh, what was I saying? But one of my downfalls is I have what I call the grace button.
Yeah.
Where I generally have absolutely no problem forgiving people, and like it's good, it's okay, it's fine. Like, yes, a relationship might be severed a little bit,
Sure.
but it's more of just like that hurt. Like, I mean, I might not be able to trust you in certain areas for a little bit, but I'm sure we'll get back on track.
Sure.
But then I've always said, like, but then I have a grace button where once that gets hit, I'm like, yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
Like, basically, you're dead to me.
Like a fuse. Like once you reach the end of the fuse,
like,
that's
you're done.
it. Yeah.
Like, that's it. And I've only had a few people actually press that button where it's like, yeah, you're dead to me.
Yeah.
And I know that is not the Christian response. That's not the way Christianity is supposed to be. But that is one fault that I do have. And so I've had a couple people come after my family really, really, really hard. And I can still be kind, and I can still be gracious, and still be respectful and kind when I interact, or if I happen to see them. But now, like, since that happened, that was like, I don't know, 12 years ago or something like that. It was when I was pastoring.
Yeah.
Like, since then, like, the lady's marriage has imploded because it's her fault. Her kids are completely estranged from her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so maybe it wasn't just me. Maybe that really is like, some people just do be crazy.
Yeah, right.
But that's a difference, I think, between forgiving somebody and then having boundaries set up because of that. Because you can still forgive somebody,
absolutely,
and still have boundaries.
And we've talked about that, right? We've talked about
toxic people.
Yep. So with the episode on dealing with toxic people.
But there's very few people that I don't think I've ever been able to say, no, I can't forgive them. Like, I'm trying to make sure I'm not explicit in my words. So I want to make sure I'm respectful in how I say this. But the point that is hard for me with forgiving certain people is the fact of you didn't just alter the course of my life, you altered the course of my children's life. That's when it gets hard,
right?
Because you can affect me, you can hurt me, you can annoy me, you can bother me, but don't you dare comfort my wife and my kids. And when you alter all of those realities, and now you're not just playing with my life, you're playing with generations' lives now.
Sure.
Now,
so how do you sync that? Because you talk about that, and I completely understand the feeling. How do you reconcile that with, like, what God says, and in the way you judge, you shall be judged, and the way you forgive, you shall be forgiven. And if you can't forgive your brother, then why would you expect God to forgive you? How do you reconcile that with those types of feelings?
Well, one, I don't think it's my brother.
Well, yeah,
not sure that's the right response.
But you know what it means by that. Like, we're supposed to forgive like God has forgiven us, right? And so how do we reconcile that? I don't know. Because I totally get what you're saying. There's some people that it's like, no, you know what I mean?
Without getting into crazy specifics, I choose my words very carefully around my kids.
Yeah.
In terms of how I talk about their parents.
Right.
And how I talk about or even their bio parents, like with my adoptive kids.
Right.
So I try to be very respectful in that, because just because that's my narrative doesn't mean it's their narrative.
Yeah.
And so in one regard, I do feel like that is showing a sign of maturity.
Sure.
And forgiveness on some level of, I'm not going to hold you accountable for payback anymore. Because that's kind of what forgiveness is I no longer am calling you to pay back your debt.
Sure.
And I'm no longer calling back.
Yeah, and I'm not. Yeah, I'm not talking about bringing them back into the fold and being all lovey-dovey.
No.
I'm just talking about forgiveness as far as what we are concerned. Not wanting the payback, but there's still something internally with the heart. You know what I mean? Like, because I can say, well, yeah, that person stole my car, and I'm not going to make them pay it back, but I still hate their guts. And is that forgiveness or is it not? That's where I'm struggling with, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not a struggle, it's a real life situation. And again, with my past, I have no problem moving past all the things with one of the people.
Yeah.
Not the other. Only because of the what's the word I'm looking for? Only because of the work that I had to do to even try to make that a relationship in the first place.
Sure.
And the amount of effort and work that I put in just to get burned. And I don't know, what does forgiveness actually look like for someone like me and for other people who have gone through divorce and affairs and other things like that? Because some people say, well, true forgiveness is you move on, you get remarried, you fix your marriage, you're all good and dandy. Whereas that's not.
But I'm saying, what's forgiveness from God's perspective? Like, that's what I'm looking at, right? Because that's ultimately what we're going to get judged on. And so what does forgiveness look like from the perspective of God?
I think it comes back to whatever debt you owe me, you don't have to owe that to me anymore. And I feel that. I don't feel like I'm owed any debt.
Sure.
I don't feel like I'm... Like it used to be the fact of, you hurt me so bad, I pray you get hurt as bad as I do.
Sure.
And I don't really think that anymore. Now it's just like, it is what it is. I hope my kids don't have more trauma in their life. So I don't want to wish bad wishes, because then that will just cause more trauma in those little kids' life too. But what does it actually look like? I don't know. Like, that's where it gets hard. And there is a level of full honesty and full disclosure. I heard it was either a sermon or a conversation from it was either Charles Stanley, Andy Stanley's dad, it was either Charles Stanley or Eugene Peterson, who was the message translator.
Yep.
And one of them said, basically, you are not fit to be a minister, pastor, elder, if there are people in your life that you have not yet forgiven.
Right.
And that's one reason why I haven't even pursued full-time ministry again.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know if I have forgiven in the way where, especially if someone came to me and said, hey, I have these issues, and me not look at them and be like, you're a boneheaded idiot.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know. I know that's not really a straightforward answer. I'm just kind of
but it's a real answer. It's a real talk answer.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, it goes to show that we're all still, working and trying to figure things out in our own lives. I mean, that's what it shows for me.
But I have to give kudos to you, because you were talking about this on air about you had a buddy that you completely separated ways from for a couple of years, and you both had to humble yourself and say, I screwed up in this area.
But that's not an affair, right? That's not
the ultimate betrayal.
The thing that I can compare that's still not even at that level would be, it took me years and years and years and years and years to forgive my parents. And the wrecked relationship that I had between them and me, and of just differences in upbringing and how things went about. And, I don't want to get into a whole lot of details because they're different people now.
Right.
But there was a lot of abuse that happened.
And that's it. And I think that's the only other situation that is harder than the one that I went through. It's when you were like physically and mentally, emotionally, sexually abused by someone who was supposed to take care of you.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that your home is supposed to be your safe castle, right? That's supposed to be where you can go at any point when you feel unsafe. And I didn't realize that was what it was supposed to be until years later, really until I moved out and moved in with my aunt who passed away last year. And she's the one that kind of taught me, and she's not even saved. She was a non-saved person, her and my uncle. And they taught me, no, you're supposed to feel safe in your home. Like you're supposed to be uplifted and built up in your home, taught good ways, loved. And that wasn't what I felt growing up. That's not, mine was, if you say the wrong word, you're going to get whooped, and you better not cry very long, because if I whoop you, and you start crying, I'm going to whoop you again for crying. Like that's the type of stuff, the whole I'm Lord of my house and I'm like a God in my house was a very well termed. And these, my parents were Christian. Now, granted, I think they've grown a lot spiritually since then, and they've changed their ways, but at one point, my dad said those words, like he was the priest and Lord of his house, almost like a God in his own house. And that's, to me, a very bad, twisted version of what Scripture actually says. So there was a lot of taking Scripture and twisting it. So there was a lot of fear of God because there was fear of my dad. And just, that wrecked me and my relationship with God, because I viewed God as my father, who was an abusive person, and my mom, who was, always fighting with my dad. It was just a bad thing, right? So, it took a long time for me to forgive, and still I agree with you. There's boundaries, right? I still have boundaries with my parents, right? And you have to have boundaries, and I won't get into the boundaries because, again, I'll get. That's where it's hard. I'll get into it with you offline.
Like you and offline, I'm like, dude, we got someone to talk about with this one.
Offline, we can get into it, but online, you still want to be respectful because there are other people, and you don't want to bash people's names. But,
right.
And so that's why I say when I say I understand how hard it is. I'm with you. I didn't experience being left by somebody that I was in love with, that we vowed, made vows together. But the people who were supposed to protect me and care for me, I understand that, right? That they didn't do that. I understand what abuse looks like. That's why my heart goes out for anybody that's in an abusive situation, or,
And that's it. I feel like a lot of times in the church, throughout years, when there was some sort of abuse that happened, that we've either made the victim the bad person,
or swept it all under the rug, or just like, all right, well, we forgave them, so we're just gonna act like nothing happened, right?
And then all of a sudden the victim doesn't feel safe, and the abuser is not held accountable.
Sure.
And so as the church, then how do we balance that then? Now real talk, audience level.
Sure.
How do we balance that where if someone does do something and it does hurt us and it does affect us, how are we able to forgive and, I'm not going to say move on, I'm going to say continue on.
Okay. Well, I would say it would depend on the relationship.
Okay.
Because there's huge differences between another congregant and you and your spouse and you, and the type of abusive situation, or even just the type of regular situation. Is it an argument? Is it a disagreement? Is it an abusiveness? Is it a sexual abuse? Is it a physical abuse? Is it a mental abuse? Each of these things, I think, you have to deal with as a church elder, leader, has to be dealt with in a little bit of a different way. If it's a dispute between congregates on, I don't know, say, whether to wear a suit or not, right? First of all, I would say, well, look at Scripture and see what God says, right? And I'd give my opinion on it. And then I would say, if it's some other type of thing, or if they sinned against it, if you lied to me and I was upset and I went to Pastor Scott, I know what Pastor Scott would say. I can guarantee you. You'll probably know what he said.
Have you talked to Mark about that yet?
Have you talked to Mark about it? Go talk to Mark about that. This is not a leadership level. This is a brother level, right? Because it's not something to be fearful of having those conversations. It's not like an abusive thing going on right now. It'd be different if I was like, if you and I were living together, right, and I was beating the crap out of you all the time.
Whole different ballgame.
Then I wouldn't say, as an elder, I wouldn't say, yeah, go try to work it out with them. I would say, no, we need to get you to a safe place. We need to speak to this person and find out both sides of the story and report it to the authorities if there's signs of physical abuse and let the justice system work. But then even after that, there still needs to be boundaries and we still need to protect the victim. Similar to how Southside handled what happened between you and your ex-wife, right? It was, no, Mark's the victim. You know, unfortunately, we love you, but we're going to have to ask you to leave because we have to set boundaries to protect Mark. You know, it's not that we hate you or we're throwing you out because of your sin. We're saying you were unrepentant, and we have to stand by the victim, right? And I think that was the absolute best thing that the leadership team ever decided at Southside, and this was even before I joined, but I totally agreed with it, of how to handle that situation, right? That I would call that like a mental, spiritual abuse, right? It was a physical abuse in a way because it broke your vows, right? It broke the sacredness of marriage. Mm-hmm. But it was very much a spiritual, because of spiritual bonds and the mental bonds, emotional bonds, those types of things that were very, in those situations, can cause abuse because it's really tearing the other person apart. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be protective of that person. Now, it's not a legal abuse, so it's not like you got to report that to the authorities. But like if it was sexual abuse, right? If John Doe was sexually or inappropriately touching Jane Smith, you know, all right, the very first step is go to the authorities. That's the very first step. Protect the person and go to the authorities right away. Like that's a no-brainer, right? And that's, you know, so for each of these situations, I believe, has to be dealt with.
And then, you know, that's when forgiveness comes in a whole different flavor,
absolutely,
than a small time skirmish, right, or a disagreement or a frustration. Because that's the thing. It's like I've seen a lot of folks in the church have disagreements, tempers flare. Let's just be honest. Like certain like hurtful words were like strung across, and they were thrown out and whatever. And all of a sudden, people are hurt now. They are emotionally hurt.
Sure.
And with forgiving them, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't expect justice, or not even expect justice, because there's different levels of justice, but it's more the fact that I don't expect retribution.
Yeah.
So like, if I'm just going to say, if April all of a sudden got mad at Adam, I'm just throwing 8 names out here now, and they were serving in ministry, they got in a heated argument, they started fighting. Okay, well, what does forgiveness look like? It's the fact of someone has to humble themselves and say, like, I was wrong. Can you forgive me? And the other person say yes, but that doesn't mean all of a sudden everything's hunky-dory and you just sweep everything under the rug.
They may say, hey, listen,
like, yes, I forgive you.
We need to work on communication skills to where we can have a conversation rather than leading into an argument, hurt feelings, and things, you know, names or whatever being hurled around in that situation.
And that's when it comes into all of a sudden, okay, so what does that look like practically? Well, It's like love is patient, love is kind, it keeps no record of right or wrong. And so there is I would say, a balance and a dance between what does it mean to forgive and continue on versus forgive and we have to separate. And I don't know, but
and I think it's situational.
Forgiveness used to be such an easy thing. But I do think, you know, when we bring Scripture into it, where what did Jesus say when he was on the cross? He said, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And then you also see Stephen saying the same thing too. Father, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing.
And there was no malice behind it.
No. Right? And so what does that look like then if Jesus can say that to his people that killed him, Father, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
It's like, how do I forgive that person?
But
because
not only
but especially if they know what they're doing.
Not only that, but the people that were having him killed were the same ones that were leading his people astray.
Right.
You know, it was kind of a double sword, right? The Israelites were the chosen people, and the Pharisees and Sadducees were steering them away.
Yep.
Now, he did say they were going to be held accountable for it, right? As teachers and stuff like that. We see that Paul talks about teachers are held to the double standard of everything else. Mm-hmm. So I believe that would also extend to those Pharisees and Sadducees that taught falsities, but...
Yep. And when we see, okay, so what does forgiveness in Jesus look like? It means we no longer pay the penalty for our sin. And so when someone sins against us, by me saying I forgive you,
sure,
I'm saying I'm no longer
holding it against you,
right. And I no longer need retribution.
Yeah, there's no malice anymore.
Right.
Not that I have to go and be hunky-dory, goody-goody friends with you, but there's no malice, there's no ill will intention anymore.
That's it. And I think the fact of how do you know if you've forgiven someone or not is how you talk about them when they're not around.
Yeah.
How you talk about them when you're just very frustrated in this, that, and the other. And then how you interact or act when they are in the same vicinity as you.
And I would think it would even be your thought process, in your inner thoughts. There's thoughts that everybody has that may not get shared with people on the outside. And Christ always came and dealt with the heart of the matter. Mm-hmm. If you say you've never committed adultery, but you look upon a woman with lust, right? You're not going to know if I'm looking on a woman with lust. So who's going to know? Just me, right? Mm-hmm. I may say, no, I've never looked on a person. You've never seen my eyes. And my eyes always stay affixed on non-women or whatever the heck it is. But it doesn't mean it's still not happening, that you don't know about it could still be a sin. So I think it's an honesty moment, right? You got to have an honesty moment with yourself. And the only person who's really going to affect is you, right? You have to honestly say, have I forgiven this person or not? And then you honestly have to answer to yourself. You don't have to answer to anybody else. You don't have to answer, like in your situation, you don't have to answer to me because you know your inner thoughts. God knows your inner thoughts. And they may be full of forgiveness or they may not be. And it may be stuff that Beth doesn't know. I mean, it may be stuff that your mom doesn't know or your kids. And that's the thing where when we talk about forgiveness, it's not for the other people. It's really for you. It's have you done this and have you really let things go? And I know that's a bad coined term, but have you forgiven to the point where you don't hold account anymore of it, and have you forgiven them enough to where there's no malice towards that person, and you're just like, well, yep, they sinned against me, but you know what, I've got to forgive them even though this injustice was done to me.
Yep. And some of that's giving it back to God and
Absolutely.
saying, not my will be done but your will, and vengeance, but God even says vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, which might mean that he does take out retribution. Absolutely. Or it might mean that nothing happens. And I think we just need to be okay no matter what happens with it.
And it's okay if you feel like you can't forgive. I think that's the point where you go, God, I got to give it to you. I'm still angry and I can't get through this. And you're going to have to help me get through this. Mm-hmm. I'm doing my best, but you're going to have to help me. You're going to have to help me. Give me the heart. Give me the heart. And just that could be the continual prayer for a person. If they can't get over something, then you might have to give it to God. You might have to cast your burdens upon him because he cares for you. It might be one of those burdens that you need to cast upon him. So, anyways.
Any other thought? I have the time, dude. We've been over 50 minutes.
I know. I think it's time to land the plane.
Oh gosh. Well, I hope you have a fun fact to end this episode. What's the one? Because guys. So at the wedding, right before we left, Evan's like, "All right, bro, you gotta give me a fun fact before you leave."
I know, you caught me off guard.
I'm like, dude, you are legendary for your fun facts with Fuller.
I'm going to pull it up so I can read it.
Side note, guys, this is probably the last one for this car trip because we're about, 15, 20 minutes from home. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the car conversations where they're not scripted, they're not teaching, they're just
I gave it to him wrong.
Honest. Oh, you lied to Evan?
I gave it to him wrong. He is an organ donator.
We'll refresh that in a second. But hopefully, let us know, guys, in the Facebook group, if you guys like these conversations where they're more just Marc and Fuller going for a ride. Because, dude, we could do that. We could jump in a car on a Friday night and then go get some Sonic and just record this way. So let me know.
This is fun.
Yeah, let us know if you guys like this style of conversation or you're more like, nah, do the normal content. This is just fun.
And we also have 2 days we're going to Revive Fest, which is an hour and something minutes. That's 2 episodes there and back for 2 straight days. That's like 8 episodes.
So I can be able to kick out 8 episodes. Maybe 3 or 4.
Oh, come on. These are fine. You're fine.
Oh, gosh.
Listen, I listened to how much you talk at the wedding reception. I know you got it in you.
That's true. It's more of like knowing you're gonna be recorded with your thoughts.
I know.
Is a completely different mental exercise.
It is like a video diary.
Yeah.
When we do episodes like this,
it feels weird because it's not like, and we can't quite have the full conversation for
certain topics
aspects.
Anyways, fun fact.
All right, what's the fun fact?
Okay. I am sorry, Ryan and Evan, because I told it to you wrong. What I read was not factual, but here is the factual portion of this. Did you know the Pope can be an organ donor up until he becomes the Pope?
Okay, so
then once he becomes the Pope, the Catholic Church basically seizes ownership of his body. Did you know that?
Really? No.
Pope can't be an organ donor because the Catholic Church has seized ownership of his body. During his papacy, Pope Francis was an outspoken supporter of organ donation. Medical term meaning when a person signs paperwork so they can after they
Pope
die.
Frankie was all about it. Okay.
So he was all for it, but he could not. Once he became the Pope, the Church, Catholic Church, seized ownership of his body.
Fascinating.
That's a fun fact.
But so my question would be: is when did that start and why? Because normally the Catholic Church, the thing about the Catholic Church, whether you agree with it or not, they always generally give a reason for their thought process.
That would be a good thing to look into, though.
Yeah, where it's why did they say that? Unless they say like his body is.
What I read was that the Pope could be a organ donor, but his organs could only be donated to higher officials in the Catholic Church.
Which that would make sense, like give it to like one of the archbishops or one of the
But
cardinals.
that was incorrect, so I'm correcting my statement.
So the fun fact is, so any priest and cardinal can be an organ donor, but once they become Pope, they no longer are.
It doesn't say. It didn't say cardinals. It just said popes. The papacy,
interesting.
For the papacy.
That's really interesting.
Just the papacy.
That is a fun fact.
So that was a fun fact, brother.
That is a fun
Why don't you tell the people where else they can find fun facts at?
They can find fun facts by listening to any other RTC episode. We've done fun facts since episode 1, my guy.
Yeah.
And very few times have we actually repeated fun facts, which I think is actually really, really cool. My check engine light just came on. So that's interesting.
That's not good.
Yeah, we'll have to see what's up with that here in a little bit.
Maintenance required.
Which we'll have to see what the maintenance required is, because normally it's just well, that's kind of freaking me out a little bit.
All right, well,
so we'll have to figure out what the heck's going on there. Oops, I just changed my clock.
All right, well, if you haven't already, head over to our Facebook page on Real Talk Christian Podcast Community and join the Facebook group if you have not already. We actually did a live video from Ryan and Evan's wedding with them, so if you probably go check that out. It's in June 7th was the date if you want to go back and look at it. It was a lot of fun time with them. But also, if you haven't checked our YouTube page out yet, head over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so when we're on, you're notified. And hopefully you are watching this. If you are watching this on YouTube and you're seeing this new camera angle, this is
not normal.
This is not normal.
We got passed by a bus. A whole bunch of kids
and you know what? It's 60 miles an hour. You're going 70, and they are
65 speed limit through here.
Is it? No, I just saw a sign. I saw a sign not too long ago that said 60. Oh, it is 65.
There we go.
So, anyways, head over there and, or if you've already seen us, yes. If you've already seen us, I can go back to where I was at. If you've already seen us before and you've seen this new angle, great. If you have not seen us before in our normal studio, check out a few more of our videos.
Absolutely.
You got anything else for these people?
Nope, that's it, guys. I'm a little nervous about this whole maintenance required check engine light.
Is it an oil change? Maybe it's an oil change.
Normally it doesn't pop on the dash, so we'll have to figure out what's going on there. So hopefully we get back home okay. So until next time, though, we'll see if we make it home or not. But until next time,
take it easy.